Well, folks, Republicans are still losing their minds over the debate today, and they're trying so hard to spin it for the fact that Trump's going to lose. We all know he's going to lose. We know President Biden is going to come prepared, and he's going to hold Donald Trump accountable, and Donald Trump is going to squirm. And so they've been trying to come up with every way they could to say that the game would be rigged against him, that CNN would be unfair. They've even went so far as to say that he's being jacked up on Mountain Dew. But this guy here, Andy Ogles, he has took it to a whole new level because he is announcing a bill called No Juicing Joe. Yeah, that's really happening in the United States of America. Take a look.
My bill, the no juicing Joe, which would require him to divulge, to report to the American people anytime that he takes a mind-altering stimulant, like we know he's going to have to do before this debate. They're going to have him juiced up and jacked up on some sort of cocktail so that he can be lucid and take on, or at least try to debate Donald Trump.
Now think about all the issues at hand that we face that this guy could have sat down and worked and came up with an idea to fix, or some sort of solution that he could bring to the table and say, hey, I've got an idea on how we can handle this. Instead, he put all that to the side and came up with No Juicing Joe. That's the best he had, and that's what he dedicated his time to do. Took time out of his day, wasted tax dollars' money. That's what your tax dollars are going to, is guys like that. Republicans love to talk about their tax dollars, and they want to know where every dime goes. Well, it went to a guy that said, I'm going to come up with a bill called No Juicing Joe. Republicans love to talk about crime. They love to talk about the border. But when President Biden says we're going to fix the border, Trump says, no, we can't do it. Hold on a second. I got to use that to run on the campaign trail because he feeds them nothing but fear and paranoia, so he needs that issue. They want to talk about inflation. Inflation's coming down, and they can't talk about that. Gas prices are coming down. They can't talk about that. But there are so many other issues at hand that we have. We can talk about jobs. We can talk about the economy. We can talk about healthcare. We can talk about the environment. We can talk about world peace. There is so much in this world that we could be talking about, but that guy decided to zero in on President Biden and say if he takes any kind of mind-altering drug, he has to tell the American people. That's got to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. And here's the thing, is that going to apply to every president that comes after Joe Biden? Is there going to be a no dope and dawn bill? Is that going to come next? Is that what we're going to sit and waste our time and our energy on? Folks, this stuff is getting so ridiculous and so far out of hand that it's impossible to rein it in and make any sense of it. And if you try to rein it in and make sense of it, you'll come across a guy like this who calls himself a prophet and who has this horse shit to say. Take a look.
President Trump, you always make it about, what's, this fake Biden, what's he going to be like when he shows up, if he shows up. I think it's going to be more about what are the moderators going to do, how they're going to try to set President Trump up, limit what he says, mute his microphone, and really make it difficult for him. I think that's going to be the real thing that's going to happen in the debate. And I said something last night on Flashpoint that, the secular media is talking about. Wouldn't it be great? I'm going to say it for the audience that maybe didn't see it last night. Wouldn't it be great if President Trump would go and reach out to this Biden guy and move forward and give him a hug, and at the same time his hand slips and we see who's under that mask? Wouldn't that be great for the whole world to see?
Yeah, that's where their mind goes. That is exactly where their mind goes. Again, that sounds like a drunk at the end of the bar just saying something unhinged and outrageous that you would just kind of roll your eyes at and keep walking. But that guy has a congregation he stands in front of. He has people that believes what he says, hanging on his every word. And that's the scariest part to me. And I've had several people reach out to me and ask me about the Roseanne Barr interviews as of late. And I may have something to say on those later, folks, but I've wrestled with whether I even wanted to touch on it or not. And the reason is because I see a lot of people trying to spin this that Roseanne is mentally ill and she's suffering from some sort of mental illness. If she is, I'm truly sorry, and I hope she gets help. But I just feel like all these people are cashing in on the grift. I feel like all these people realizes, hey, Trump has this really stupid audience. So I can go out there and I can say all this unhinged, over-the-top stuff like they're eating baby fetuses, and if you just pull off his mask, you'll see who's underneath it. There's an actor underneath there. I just think they understand that there is a deranged audience out there that he's tapped into, and they see him grifting. I mean, in anything, if you see someone else, if someone else becomes successful at something, and Trump has become a successful grifter, so if someone sees, hey, man, people are gullible enough to buy this. How many times have you seen something pop up in your town, a place of business pop up? You didn't have one before. and it succeeded. It did really well. And then suddenly someone tried to come out with another one. That's what we see happening here. That's what we see happening. They're going out there and they're seeing him do this grift. They're seeing it work for him. And they're saying, hey, we can get in on this. Yeah, well, we can grift too. I'll just tell him that he's got a mask on and Trump needs to pull it off. And I'll tell him all this other deranged shit. And they'll listen. They'll buy it. Because they always follow this up with, send me your money here. It reminds me back in the day of the old televangelists. It used to be like, put your hand to the screen, just touch the screen and you'll be healed. And used to it was people's little mammals that would sit there and send their money to people like that. And I remember people in my hometown. I remember this old lady that I used to cut her grass back when I was a kid. She hung on every word guys like that said. I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but if that lady was still alive today, I'm certain she would be hanging on every word that Donald Trump said, because she would sit there and do her knitting and watch those ministers, and she'd be like, oh, I got to send him my money. I got to send him my money. And even as a kid, I was like, he's duping you. He's duping you. My dad would be like, hey, listen, don't send that guy your money, okay? Don't. Oh no, I touched that screen and boy, I felt something. Yeah, you can get that's the thing. You can get worked up in any of this. You can get caught up in something. You can go to a concert and have some sort of good feeling. You can feel warm and fuzzy inside all of a sudden. And someone can get up there and they can start, trying to fuel your rage and just get you all filled with hate and get you all worked up. And yeah, you'll feel like you're ready to go, but that doesn't mean that it has any substance to your life. That doesn't mean that it's going to accomplish any of the problems we face. Now you can sit back and say, well, they're writing a bill. They're not going to let Joe be juiced anymore. Okay, how'd that help you pay your bills today? What did that help you with? What did that help you with your life? We used to be in a spot where people were concerned about the issues at hand, and we would argue those. And I would love to just go back to arguing about, okay, how are we going to go about creating jobs? Who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for that? I would much rather be having that conversation than to be sitting here distracted by a bill as ridiculous as no juicing Joe. You want my honest opinion? If a guy like that walked up and went, I spent all day working on this bill right here, I'd be like, buddy, somebody come and get the straitjacket, take this guy away. Can somebody get him out of the way? We're trying to work here. I think back to something my dad used to tell me. The story always cracked me up. My grandfather owned a sawmill back years ago. And when my dad and his uncles got old enough to work and help him in it, they got up and, went to work every day when they were kids and worked alongside my grandpa. Well, if one of them just wouldn't do anything, if one of them just absolutely wouldn't do anything, my grandpa would look over at him. He wouldn't cuss them out. He wouldn't try to do anything. He would just be like, you ain't gonna work today? And they'd be like, I don't feel like it. Then go to the house, go home, get out of my way. I'm here to work today. If you don't want to, go home. And I ain't paying you either. Don't ask me for money later. I'm not paying you if you go home. I feel like my grandpa needs to be there today. And when that guy walks up and goes, I brought this bill. Oh, you didn't come to work today? You didn't come to work today there, Andy? Just go home, buddy. We're here to work. We're here to solve America's problems. You go home. Oh, and by the way, you're not getting paid. That's what needs to happen to Andy Ogles, because that's got to be the dumbest bill. A guy took time out of his day. A guy took time out of his day to work on that. Yeah, he really cares about the American people.